I love finding patterns that apply across domains, right? Evolution is one of these patterns. You might already understand evolution, but to put it as simply as I can, if you've got any kind of organism, right, it cannot reproduce. It cannot make more of itself unless it survives to do so, right? That's its evolutionary pressure. It's the world around it. You can think of the world as though it's like trying to kill this creature. It's not quite. It's more like survival is hard by its very nature, and any organism is struggling just to continue, right? So what happens is, let's say you're pitted up against an environment where like you need to be able to swim in order to survive. Not pygmy sloths. Sloths were a great example of this. There's I don't know if you knew this. Sloths know how to swim. You drop one into some water and they'll keep on swimming. And the reason why they're able to do that is because of all the sloths that lived in all the trees. Anyone that fell into the water and couldn't swim died. And all the ones that could swim kept on going. And that's how these patterns emerge. That's how features of a species emerge, right? Cats are cute, hypothetically, because cuteness helped them steal food from us, right? Or get offered food from us for keeping them around. But these processes of environmental selection, right? And organism fitness for that environment. You have to be fit in order to continue. We call it survival of the fittest, but even that's a bit of a contentious phrase in my mind. Maybe I'll elaborate on that later. But evolution doesn't just apply to biological structure and biological life. It also applies to some aspects of the human world, like take business, for example. There was an example that I heard where you might stroll up to a checkout counter at a grocery store and you see that stack of magazines on the corner, right? And they've all got faces. They're all like big faces staring at you, smiling, looking like, Kelly lost 35,000 pounds last Thursday. The reason why they have these faces that look you in the eyes when you're walking past is because they grab your attention, right? And you might get tired of it. I know I do. It's like I'd like to see some variety. If I'm going to buy any kind of magazine, make it something new. But the idea is that these things capture attention so well that all the magazines that don't have those faces, they might just have, something boring like a dry leaf on a cover. They die. They stop getting sales because other magazines get their sales instead. Therefore, they stop getting resources. Therefore, they don't have that material that they need to continue to reproduce their magazines to make more, and they die out. And we see this all over the board, obviously not just magazines, but any kind of market. You can think of it as like an evolutionary process. You've got the needs of the people, and they're willing to spend money only on the things that they need. And if you don't fit the need as much as somebody else does, if your makeup brand isn't as good or doesn't feel as nice or doesn't look as good as somebody else's makeup brand, right, then it withers and dies and somebody else takes the place. And I love this because it's not just things in the human scale, because even that's kind of like an organic biological process, but you can even see it on the solar scale, right? Solar systems go through an evolutionary process too. Let's call it fitness to inhabit life. So you can imagine if you look up at the stars, and you might have seen a picture of the Milky Way galaxy. It's this enormous spiral of stars, billions and billions and billions of them. Stars closer to the center, that giant, enormous black hole in the center, are densely clustered up together, and stars further out into the distance are super spread apart and far away. And the reason why that's important is because one of the processes of like the universe's natural state are not solar flares, not pulsars, supernova. That's the word I was looking for. Supernova. Supernova are, to call them nuclear explosions is hilarious. I mean, it's like saying a glass of water is the same thing as all of the world's oceans combined. It's not. Supernova will wreck solar systems for light years away, absolutely obliterate them. You can imagine in our solar system, it took Earth, as far as we know, about 4 billion years to just be able to inhabit life. Or was it 300 million? Anyway, it's been around for about 4 billion years. As you get closer and closer and closer to the center of the galaxy, and you get denser and denser among all the other stars, you can imagine supernova are more likely to appear next to you and close enough to you to rip your planets apart and even other stars apart. Supernova are dope. So, and on the other hand, you get, but there's something valuable out of these supernovae, because supernovas, they spew material, dust and matter in all direction. It's that dust and matter that coalesces into their own new stars. And every time this happens, when a supernova occurs, what it does is it takes all the elements that are already present in the star and it collapses them into denser and denser and denser elements. If you know the periodic table, you imagine the star is already made out of the lightest elements. That's helium and that's hydrogen, right? Or hydrogen and helium in that order, right? But as they get denser and denser and more explosions happen, it can make denser elements like iron, nickel, cobalt, I don't know, but denser elements. And it seems like we need these kinds of dense elements for life to be able to exist. So you get further out in the reaches of the universe where you've got no supernova whatsoever, and you have simply too simple of material for anything to actually form at all. It's just clouds of gas. You get gas giants, Jupiters and Saturns all over the place, but nothing like Earth, nothing terrestrial, and you wouldn't get the building blocks of water like we need to, for example. So even in that sense, a solar system has to be fit just to be able to survive long enough to create a planet. And, beyond that, they still have to be fit enough as planets to be able to inhabit life. We talk about this in the form of the Goldilocks zone, right? So Earth is in this nice little middle point where if it was too far away from the sun, it wouldn't get enough heat, and all the water on Earth would be frozen ice. And if it was too close to the sun, it'd be like Mercury, right? Where it's just like baked entirely on one side. Not like 420 baked. I'm talking like throw it in the oven at 40,000 degrees Kelvin for the next 10,000 years kind of baked. It's not a great time. So Earth already exists in this nice Goldilocks zone. So on top of being in this solar system Goldilocks, we also exist in this galactic Goldilocks, where we're just in the right place to have this nice balance of not too much, not too little, not too many explosions, not too little iron. And here we are, alive, fit. We were able to evolve out of the fact that the planet could survive at all. It's a fascinating process. Evolution happens at every scale. Have a good one.